Welcome to VB Coding! You can call me B, or just the initials VB for short. Today we'll be going over how to create a progress bar that can show you how far you are along in executing your macro, which is especially helpful if it is a long macro that takes more than just a few seconds to run. It's also helpful for when people need to execute your macro for you and they're not familiar with the process, they don't know what to expect. So having a progress bar just helps them relax a bit and understand nothing is broken, nothing is stopped. So we will go over how to create the user form, which will be our actual pop-up that'll show the progress bar image. And then we'll go over how to update that image using modules. So first, to create what I'm going to call as the pop-up, it is from a user form. So within Visual Basic, you go up to Insert and click on User Form. It's the same way that you would create a module. And once you have that main user form created, you only really need just 3 components. Honestly, 2. The first one being a text box where you can say you are X% complete. And then below that, we will have what's called a frame, which will be like the outline of the entire progress bar. And then within that, we'll make another frame that'll represent the actual colored portion that you'll see grow as your macro progresses. So to add additional objects to your user form, you will need a toolbox. And to do that, you just go up to View and select Toolbox, and that is what you see above my head right now. That's where you select the text box and the frames. And once you have your user form up, you can double click anywhere in the main body of that form, and it'll pop up another window that you see down below where you can say, once this screen is activated, which you see in the bottom right corner, you see that drop down says activate. You want it to call a module. So once it is visible, then basically have your macro continue running the main scripts. And here's a quick overview of how everything is connected. So you're going to have your main user form, which is your pop-up, and then you're going to have a module where you call your user form, where you display your pop-up. It's going to show your pop-up, then your pop-up is now going to say, okay, call your main coding, which in my case is this sub create files. And the coding will continue on from there. You are going to define a variable, this PCT COMPL. This is just %complete abbreviated. As with all variables, you can put in whatever you want. So as your macro is running, you can give it a value. So you can say the %complete is 0, %complete is 10. And as you give it a variable, then you want to execute this, essentially, I guess formula. Execute this like mini program, and which we are calling progress. And this module is what is actually updating that text in the text box that says you are X% complete, and it's also updating that little mini frame that is representing our progress bar growing. This module is updating the width to make it wider and wider to make that bar look like it's growing. And also, you can have, as a reminder, on your main Excel worksheets, you can have a button that you can just click to execute your macro. you would have this button assigned to this first sub that is just displaying the pop-up, and then everything will go from there. And with that, let's hop over to Visual Basic. So I'm currently in Visual Basic for applications for Microsoft Excel. If you are starting a new project, be sure to save your workbook as a macro-enabled workbook, not just a standard Excel workbook. If you cannot see the developer tab, it is hidden by default. So if it is hidden, go up to File, Options, and in the pop-up window there, you'll see an option on the far left to customize your ribbon. Click on Customize Ribbon, check the box to show Developer, and now you'll be able to go here, click on Visual Basic, and clicking Visual Basic is what has opened this. So let's go ahead and make our user form. So let's go up to Insert, click on User Form, and you can see it already brought up the toolbox. We have a basic body to work with, and we can adjust the size as we want. If you accidentally close your toolbox, go up to View, and you can click on Toolbox from there. So for your user form, we can rename this if you'd like. So we can say UF for user form, progress bar, and see that updated up here. If you want to update the caption, update the text at the top of your pop-up window, go to Caption, User Form 1, and here we can say, I don't know, progress bar or current status, whatever you'd like. So I want to have a text box that says you are X% complete in your macro running. So in my toolbox, I'm going to the third column over, first row for text box. I just selected it, so now up here, I can left click and drag to create it. So I want to have this be transparent. I want it to not stand out so much. So I'm looking over at the properties on the left-hand side. So looking at style, I want it to be transparent. Border style, none. There we go. So now that I have it pretty much hidden, it doesn't stand out so much. I feel a little bit better that way. I want to insert our first frame. And I don't want it to have a caption, so I'm going to caption here and taking that out. And I need this to work with the second frame that is going to go inside it. So I do have just a couple notes. I'm going to use a width of 200 down below. Height is up here. Height I will use 24. So I want to now make a second frame within this first frame. So I'm going back to here, lining it up. So now for this one, I am going to have the height be 20. And for the width, we'll start off with 10, just so we can see it. For the back color, I'm just choosing anything that'll help it stand out. And this bright blue highlight is the one that sticks out the most. So I'm using that one to make our progress bar. Just making sure it is all lined up. For our progress bar, I'm going to give it a name of just bar. And I want to keep a note of what I name this, as well as what I name this text box. I really only have one text box, so I feel like having text box 1 is a bit redundant, so I'm just going to say text box. And no, I have one more thing. I do need to have this call a module. You'll make that in just a moment. So let's go up to insert module. And there's 2 that we need to create. Or at least you don't have to make individual modules. I just like to keep it organized. So for this first one, I'll call it a_progress bar. And this will do the main calculation for me. Or the main updates. I want the second module to be the main project I'm working on. And I'll just call it main code. Just for today. So for here, this one will be our sub main code. And just not to confuse it with, well, our module name has the B underscore, so if I just do main code, that's fine. I know what it is. I know it's separate. Well, not separate, you know what I mean. There's a name for the module itself, and then there's a name for the coding inside it. So now that I have this main, I can go back to my user form. And careful not to click in the text box or a frame. I'm just clicking in the main body. Double click. And now we have this private sub for the user form. So I'm going to say when I meant to click on activate. So when the screen activates, then I want it to call main code. So when the pop-up shows up, it is going to start executing this code down here. And again, just in case you missed it, I just double-clicked somewhere in the body of the user form, changed that to activate, and I just said call using the same name that I put down here. Okay. So looking at our main project, don't forget to define your variables. So I'm going to say dim, which is short for dimension. The PCT compl, which is just %complete abbreviated as single. And you can leave a comment saying this is % complete. I promise I can type. Or I promise I can spell. I just can't type and spell at the same time. Okay? % complete. I'm just going to say start at 0, just so we have a starting place. So we can give our % complete a value, but okay, how does this bar know this value? Like, how does it react? So that is where this first module is going to come in. So I'm going to say sub, give it the name progress. It's going to look at the % completes. You also notice that up here, it put in the name progress as well. So I want to reference the user form of progress bar. I'm using the same name that we gave this over here. And remember when I said keep in mind the name of this text box and the bar? So now we need to use that same name. So I'm going to say text box dot text equals, I want to say the percent complete and ampersand, kind of concatenating percent complete with percent symbol with the word completed. And then we also, that's updating our text box. So now I also need to do update the user form progress bar dot width times 2. I'm doing times 2 because in my case I did the width of 200 instead of 100. So again, if I went up to my text box, the name is text box, so I use text box here. If I gave it a different name, I would change it here as well. Clicking on the smaller form, the name is bar, so I put the name bar right here. Okay. Make sure I'm saving my progress as I go. Control S. So now that we have this module ready to go with our calculations, now I can go back to my main module, my main code, and I can say I want to execute progress and send the value percent complete. So as the coding is running, it'll hit this, it'll stop, go over here, execute this, which will in turn update the user form, and then we come back and it'll continue on. Okay. So because I'm doing a quick demonstration of how this works, I am just going to do, look at my notes here. Because it's not going to be running through extra lines of code, I'm just going to tell our coding to wait 2 seconds just so I can do this demonstration, and you can copy along with me. You don't need a current project to use this on if you want to learn and practice. So we have our percent complete 0. It'll update everything, wait 2 seconds. I'm going to have this repeat. I want it to update to next 10%. Update our progress bar, wait a couple seconds. Update percent complete to 20%. Update our progress bar, wait 2 seconds. And I'm just going all the way to 100%. Of course, you want to do all this waiting nonsense, and you would have your own coding between these steps, between like the 10% and 20%. So once you get to the end, you want to do your user form progress.hide because it's no longer needed anymore. Let's go ahead and add in another wait. We want to save our workbook, and at the bottom I'm just having a little pop-up message that just says, hey, your macro finished running, it's done, yay! And there's one more thing. So I don't want to start executing this. Well, here, let's do a demonstration. Make sure I'm saving. To test your code, if you want to execute it line by line, press F8 on your keyboard. If you're working on a laptop, you might have to press the FN key with F8. So I'm pressing F8. this line turns yellow, we're continuing. Actually, I did not even have the section to display it. So there was one thing I wanted to show you of why I want to do the show the user form in a separate sub. So let's show you why. Okay, now we can test through. Let's do F8 to start executing. F8, F8. Object required. Oh, I did progress, not progress bar. Debug. Progress bar. Okay, I fixed it. F8. So our progress bar is hiding over here. So now this coding that is showing right here is the coding on the user form itself when we double clicked in the body. So let's continue pressing F8. It's now going to call main code again, F8. Now we're back at the top. It's going to show it again, and it's not going to be happy. Yes, form is already displayed, can't be showed, can't show modally, can't show again. So I'm going to end, and instead, still within the same module, I'm just going to make a new sub, and I'll just call it begin, and move this up here. Okay, save. So now I'm actually going to start from this begin section, which is in this v_main code module, pressing F8, F8, F8. Our progress bar is showing. It's now executing the code on the user form itself. F8, F8. It called main code, so it went down to here. We are continuing on. F8, F8. It just updated the text in our pop-up window. And because I started off with percent complete being 0, well, now the width is 0, so this makes sense. When I first made the user form, I gave it the width of, I believe it was 10, just so we could see it while creating it. Wait 2 seconds. Now percent complete is 10. And you can, if you wanted to double check your work, this is just a sidebar. If you wanted to see what the value is for a variable, such as, later on in your code, and you're past this part, hover your mouse over the variable name, and it'll tell you, percent complete equals 10. Update the text, update the bar. Oh, I'm seeing I forgot to take out the frame name for the bar. So here, before we go too far, I'm clicking this blue square at the top to stop executing my code. I want to go up to this and making sure I'm selected on the smaller frame. I'm going to the caption and I'm taking out that frame 2. Now that looks much better. Save. Okay, let's go back. I know I have a lot of things open right now. So here, let's start off one step at a time. I'm going to my main code. Let's start executing at this begin. F8, F8. We see our progress bar. It's executing the code of that user form, which will go back to main code, F8, F8. That is now executing the code from the a_progress bar module. So I start off with percent complete being 0, so that's why the bar just disappeared again. Wait 2 seconds. And I'll just keep pressing F8. We're up to 10%, 20%, jumping up to 60. Just make sure you can see that progress bar okay. Okay, so now, again, in my notes, I use UF progress instead of progress bar. That is okay. F8, a pop-up disappeared. Save our workbook. And then we have our little message with the title of complete saying the macro has finished running. Yay! Just in case if the person wasn't paying attention, and thought maybe something happened, the progress bar disappeared. So this looks great. If you don't want to open a Visual Basic to execute all of your coding, you can also go to your worksheet again, go up to the Developer tab, go to Insert, underneath the Developer tab, and select on the button icon. Draw your button, and we are going to assign it begin. That is our bit of code that is going to show our progress bar pop-up window, and of course everything else is going to run from there. So I'm going to select on begin. And if you do have any issues assigning a macro to a button, it could be because there are special characters like square brackets in the folder path of where your file is saved. So if you do have this issue, you can save your workbook to your desktop and then assign the coding to buttons and go from there. Before you can resize a button, you can right click it to see the little circles appear in the corners, and now you can resize it. Now you can give it a name, run code. So now, let's see how it looks running from here. So our coding is waiting every couple of seconds, though it did not update the text box. So I had to remind myself, sometimes when it comes to executing code using F8 to step through versus hitting the play button or pressing a button to execute, there could be differences differences in how it behaves and what results you get, such as where you are selected, where you are selected. It can also be a timing issue. It's just how VBA thinks. So for it to take a step back and not forget to update the text box that I wanted to, I added in do events in our a_progress bar because it seemed to be skipping over updating the text, but it did okay updating our bar width. But I just want to make sure, hey, do your job before you continue on. So once we added in do events, now I am able to hit our button, and now the text box is updating as it should have. 60, 90, 100%. The progress bar goes away, we get our pop-up, macro is finished running, and there you go. Now you have a progress bar for your macro. And this can be helpful where if you have a report that has a lot of rows and the row count can vary, you can add it into your macro to do a calculation of, okay, you have this many rows, have the progress bar increase by this amount. Maybe for when you have, let's say, 20 rows, the percentage is going to increase is going to be higher, versus if you have 1,500 rows, then the progress bar meter should increase just a little bit as it's going through maybe a do until loop. But yeah, you can just keep those kinds of tricks in mind where you don't need to do these hard percent complete. Is that 10%, 20%? You can do calculations to really fit your needs, just so the end user has a better idea of where they are in the process. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a scenario in mind, feel free to email me at askvbcoding@gmail.com and I'll consider them for future videos. I really appreciate your time and thank you again for watching. Have an awesome night. Goodbye!